A very good morning to you and welcome to another edition of Captured by Women. It's another Saturday and we are back here. My name is Abna Tebi and I'm in here with Petra and Nanama. As usual, we are discussing a number of issues that have made the headlines during the week. We are looking today at a directive by the IGP to suspend for the personnel of the MTTD and the highway patrols to suspend motor checks with immediate effect. Now we are asking what informed or necessitated this directive. What are we to make of this directive, and should we be concerned about such a directive, particularly coming at this time as we are just about 2 months to the elections? We'll also turn our attention to some finance issues, particularly looking at credit ratings, and we're looking at what it means for a country to be rated a B or a B minus by credit rating agencies such as Moody's and Fitch. And this is coming against the backdrop of the recent ratings by these credit rating agencies. We'll also be speaking to Dr. Henry Latte, flag bearer of the Great Consolidated People's Party, GCPP. We'll be asking him questions about the party's fortunes as we prepare for the elections. And then lastly, we'll turn our attention to some reports coming out or being issued by the Media Foundation for West Africa, which is looking at fact-checking of some political party promises or claims as we head into the elections. What does this fact-checking project seek to achieve, and how is the fact-checker itself being fact-checked? These are some of the issues lined up, or indeed these are the issues lined up for discussion this morning. We'll take a break and we'll be right back.
Welcome back, lovely viewers. On the spin today, we're discussing two interesting topics. First, we're looking at the Media Foundation for West Africa's fact checks concerning the campaign elections. And then we're also discussing the fact that there's been an order for police checks to be stopped or effective immediately to be taken away. So we're discussing this in the light of the political scene. We want to know whether this is going to affect the politics generally, or this is to buy votes, or again, this is to amass support from the driver unions. Ladies, indeed, the fact checks, like Abna said, we want to know whether the fact checker himself is being fact checked. Exactly. We know Media Foundation for West Africa has been on the scene for quite a while, and I think last time we were talking about the fact that it's important for us to fact check the promises that come up, and I think that is in the good direction. We must applaud them, but again, we don't know how valid their views are. We know they've come up with the basis for making such conclusions, though, but I don't know what your view generally is.
First of all, for me, it's instructive for us to note that we're moving very much in the direction of looking at issues in this election. Several media houses, including the Media Foundation for West Africa, are looking at the issues and trying to get the voters to consider the issues as a basis for the choice of candidates. So this is one of several interventions I feel that are very important, that we look at what are they saying, how true are the issues, and how possible are they to be implemented. You would notice that the Media Foundation has looked at several, the main political parties and specific promises, and have clearly indicated which are possible, which are true, which are false, what claims they've made. It's important that we look at those issues specifically because it helps the electorate make decisions. So we know that sometimes politicians can be very vague, but this gives us a concrete evidence of where we're going, and then voters can make a choice. Especially for me, I'm very interested in the first-time voters. So those first-time voters who need to make a very good decision. We know we have a very large youthful population, so it's important that we have these things in the public domain. So it's a good thing, and we hope that it will continue.
Yeah, right. I mean, it's definitely very good that we have these fact-checking going on, but it's also important to know that, or for the Media Foundation for West Africa perhaps to, in their reporting, when they state that this particular promise or claim is false, then there should be the truth. They should put out the truth, so that it's not just discounting what they say, but also putting out the truth out there for the general public or the electorate to also have that. Because in as much as it's a fact-checking process, it's also an information sharing opportunity as well. So that if you say this statement is false, there are a number of examples they give and say that this is false or other things. But false. Exactly. There was one other thing too about, I think one by Nano Yeleta, which was talking about LEAP and the fact that a certain number of households were supported under the LEAP project by the Kufuor administration, and then in the NDC era there was an overwhelming increase, and the Media Foundation found that statement to be, it said, not verifiable. And I'm thinking, what does that mean, not verifiable? Is it that the information isn't there for them to say that indeed this is true or not? If not, then perhaps that statement in itself is false. Because if you can't find the information, where did the ministry get that, or the minister find that information to make that statement? So I would want to know what not verifiable or cannot be verified. What does that mean?
So maybe there's no record of it anyway.
So where did the minister get that? So then is it false or not? So why are we reluctant to perhaps, I mean, this is just me. Maybe it's something else.
So just to quote, it can't be false if they can't find alternative information.
So but if they refer to the minister, let me just
read, like, concerning what Abna says concerning Nano Yeleta. She says, in 2008, they registered 1,640 households. As we speak today, His Excellency President John Dramani Mahama has registered 217,000 households under LEAP. And then they said it's not verifiable. But if she has the figures, you want to know where she got these figures from, and what are you getting that you're saying is not verifiable? Because to say it's not verifiable, then it means you don't have any data at all. Again,
exactly. And then there's this other category of true but misleading. Which one is that, and what does that mean? Like,
Honorable maybe it can be skewed. Example, he says Ghana has the highest national income amongst its neighbors, and then they say true but misleading.
Okay, so
what is the misleading fact?
Exactly. Is it about like people engaging in sophistry, so using intelligent arguments to make their point, or what? I mean, really,
I would say that, because it could be that yes, this is information that is there, but it's being used in a manner that doesn't really represent what the original purpose is for. So that could be an issue of being misleading. So,
but politicians are there to make, I mean, you're trying to sell your product or your service to the extent that you have that truthful fact and you're using it in a way, I don't know. Anyways, it's just me. I don't know. But
let's not skew it. So far, we've spoken about those that they've raised from the, but at least from the MPP side, there was one that was half true. Something that the Mr. Boachie Jako, the campaign policy advisor of MPP, said, today Ghana is currently ranked 114th on the World Bank's Ease of Doing Business Index. Then they say half true. There's a statement under it that says the multiplicity of counterproductive taxes, levies and duties, high cost of utilities, erratic supply of electricity, etc. led to this ranking. Meanwhile, the NDC manifesto is silent on how these real issues will be tackled, and that's what they're saying is half true. So again, which part is true, which part is
Let's know all of
false?
Those
I think that will be important.
Maybe we should also look at some of the totally false claims, completely false. There's one by Honorable Fifi Kwete that says the non-performing MPP did not build a single bungalow for basic schools and senior high schools in 8 years, and they say completely false.
Which we all
so that's exactly. I mean, if it's completely false, we don't even need to go.
Yes, once it's completely, but the ones that are in between, half truth, half false, I mean,
true but misleading, are the ones that are confusing. Yeah.
Right. So the interesting thing again is the command to take away all the road barriers, the police checks. Abna, is this lawful? Is it?
The point is this, that those indeed they are administrative things. So the police, depending on the intelligence they have, could say that yes, we're going to be mounting barriers. We're going to intensify our road or motor checks and all. So to say whether it's lawful or not, I can't really say that what they're saying now is not lawful. Indeed, the police can do that depending on the intelligence they have, right? But for me, I find it interesting that, first of all, I don't know if indeed what we are seeing circulating around is the real deal, because we've had in the past seen certain things coming from, I mean, like quote unquote, deemed to be coming from certain offices of state. But exactly. So for now, we haven't heard the police coming out to say that indeed this is what they're saying or not. So I proceed cautiously. But the thing is, if it's true, what we saw or what we are seeing on WhatsApp and other media platforms, then it's very disturbing, because the thing was supposed to be restricted, right? It was supposed to be an internal communication. So first thing is, Mr. IGP, your security protocols are themselves compromised. So perhaps you need to take a look at that before you even talk about exactly my point. Well, so let's look at that. But indeed, the police, depending on the intelligence they have, could intensify or reduce certain things. Yes, but I don't think going into an election, it would be very prudent to say that you're going to, you know.
But really, I'm thinking about the police checks. And what do they really check? Because every time I've been stopped, they don't check anything. I switch on my lights, I stop, they look at my face, and they say proceed. Or they signal to me. So what are they really checking? Because there are times where I've driven very late in the night, and I'm happy the police is there, but what are they checking?
Well, maybe they have their own. They know what they're looking out for.
Yeah, they can't tell you.
Exactly. They can't tell. Because so the thing is, motor checks, which is, you know, let's see your license. You have an fire extinguisher. Those kinds of things they do. Those are to be suspended with immediate effect. But then they said that the highway patrols are to be looking out for ammunitions and drugs and all of those things. So taking out the routine motor checks of all those things,
which
but
in my opinion they're not doing already.
But my problem is, how do you distinguish between who they are going to stop to check ammunitions and arms? Are they going to still do it for all cars, like they're doing for everybody, or it's going to be random? And if that's the case, then really they are not, should I say, stopping anything they were doing, because we couldn't tell what they were checking in the first place.
It's just they're not going to be asking you for, let me see your license. Do you have an insurance policy? Those kinds of things they're not going to do. So when they stop you, open your boot, let's see what you have in there.
But do you think it's politically inclined? That's, I think, the question that people.
Well, for me, I don't want to even go into that. I'm just hoping the police is doing something very professional. Exactly. I don't want to believe that police would do anything to jeopardize the security of the state just for political reasons. That is me, and this is the standard I'm holding the IGP and the police service to. But if indeed they're doing something, I don't even want to think about it. I'm just hoping they're doing something which is professionally motivated. But we can't
take away the fact that those thoughts will run through our minds.
Oh, definitely.
Because the police has always been in the light of their state institution, but we know that in Ghana, state institutions could be used sometimes to favor the incumbent government.
How would this favor any political party?
Well, there are lots of things going around. So
the idea is that then the drivers will be more, usually when they're stopped, money exchanges hands, so the harassment will be taken away, and then they feel, oh, this is a government that's helping us. So, I guess that's the view.
Well, very interesting. We've been talking about the Media Foundation for West Africa's fact check. We're very excited that there is some fact checking going on, and that we can hold our politicians to the statements that they make, not just the presidential candidates, but politicians in general. And we've also been discussing the police checks and how removing the routine checks and just concentrating on ammunitions and drugs affects us. We'll take a quick break, and when we come back, we'll continue with our discussions.
Welcome back, and this is Big Bang 1 on Captured by Women. On Big Bang 1 this morning, we're looking at some financial issues, particularly looking at credit ratings as done by credit rating agencies such as Fitch and Moody's and the others. We are looking at what it means to have a credit rating agency rate a country any particular rate. It could be an A, it could be a AAA, a B, or whatever. We have with us Dr. Eric Osei Asibe of the Department of Economics, University of Ghana, joining us this morning to shed some more light on this issue. You're welcome, sir.
Thank you.
Credit ratings, what does it mean? We hear Ghana has been rated a B minus by Fitch, Moody's, and so on and so forth. Tell us what it means in terms of our economic growth or economic aspirations.
Well, it means that it shows your credit worthiness, let me put it that way. that if you want to go to the international capital market, like the Eurobond market or the US, to raise funds, more often the potential investor does not know the credit worthiness or your ability to repay. And it's often quite costly to do that assessment on their own. So they often rely on an independent credit rating agency. For them, for every bond that is issued, you pay interest, right? The interest has several components. There's a component that actually captures the person's idiosyncratic risk or systemic risk, that is his ability to pay. So that part is called the risk premium. And the risk premium you add that to the actual interest that you will pay. So if the person has a high default risk, meaning that the probability that he will not be able to pay is high, then it increases the risk premium. So you then demand higher interest rates to cover for that risk. And so before you can do that, you really need to know the risk profile of that company, of that country.
Right.
And so these agencies actually have taken it upon themselves to do that assessment, that an independent assessment of such countries to determine their risk levels, meaning their ability to pay such loans. And that will then tell investors how much they should demand for risk premium.
So what are some of the factors that lead to the determination of a particular rating?
Well, several factors. Factors with regard to government budget deficits is key, plays a significant role because you are looking at government expenditures vis-a-vis its revenue. So if you are recording large fiscal deficit, it means that your inability to pay is actually reduced,
Okay.
Sorry, it's high. And also if you have high debt stock, mounting your debt stock is actually increasing. It also increases your debt servicing obligation, which means that if you're taking up more loans, it increases your probability of default because you may not be able to pay. So several other factors, political risk, if you're in an election year, anything can happen, so increases your systemic risk. Energy or infrastructure risk. If you don't have reliable, efficient energy, it can affect your productive sectors, which means that you may not be able to raise enough revenue to pay. So they do all the very comprehensive assessment that they do to inform your level of risk. And based on that level of risk or your credit worthiness, they actually rate you whether you're coming in as triple A,
Dr. Soheside,
Yeah.
the Moody's has rated at B3,
Right.
and Fitch is rating at B-. What's the difference? Are they equal? How do we merge the
Well,
two?
we have three leading credit agencies today. We have the Moody's and then the S&P, that's the Standard and Poor's. Together they control about 80% of the credit agencies. And we have the Fitch, which is the third one, that has about 15% in that. For what it means is that each one has its own rating criteria. Right. Some start with AAA, some start with 3 A's, but essentially, depending on their threshold, for example, Moody's have what we call the A. 3A, AA, and then A, and then they have a B. Now, all those that are rated B and above actually are graded investments. They are seen as gradable investment, meaning low yield but high secured loans. So their interest rates on them are very low. But below B are what we call speculative or junk bonds, which means that their risk profiles are very high. Yeah. So, however that you want to look at, you want to see how they define their rating. B- is still speculative bond, which is junk bond or high yield bond. So as also B, which is also speculative investments, which also. So they all have different letters that they use, but essentially the interpretations come
pretty similar. Okay.
I'm a bit concerned about the variables that they look at. So what variables are they testing? You made mention of the issue of deficit, budget deficit.
Right.
And there's also GDP to loan ratio.
Right.
Which of these, when you're looking at Fitch and Moody's, what weighting are the two agencies giving these variables, and how should we be looking at those variables as issues of concern as a nation? Because you mentioned that being an election year, that's one of the issues. One of our biggest issues in an election year is spending. So the budgets being overrun by governments. Is that an issue that we should be concerned about now?
Definitely, it's a key issue in that rating. It's not only about your expenditure; they also look at your ability to mobilize domestic revenue, revenue mobilization. So, it's happening now. The fiscal risk is still very high, still very elevated. Why? Though government is pursuing very strong fiscal consolidation, which means that it's cutting its expenditure and trying to raise revenue, and deficit is actually coming down. The rating says that the fiscal risk is high. The reason being that, one, you are experiencing underperforming revenue collection. So although you are cutting your expenditure because your revenue is also going down, you are really not making much. And also you are still borrowing, because for fiscal consolidation, one of the things is that once your deficit is reducing, then it means that you don't need to borrow so much to finance your expenditures. So it should lead to a reduction in borrowing. But here is the case, government is still in the market borrowing. So that also raises concern. And the fact that you're also in an election year, which often past data has shown that government often has the appetite to spend more in an election year, also present its own risk to your expenditure. So definitely this will inform whatever ratings that you get.
Doc, you talked about the fact that these are independent ratings or analysis that are done, but there's the other side, or there's the other argument that, well, perhaps some countries actually contract these CRAs to do their bidding, so that they present a very nice picture and all that. Could that be perhaps the reason why we see the difference in Moody's and Fitch's ratings?
Well, Fitch has not come out yet. Not much recent as Moody has. I doubt if any country can, influence, but we cannot also totally discount that. But let's also bear in mind that their ratings or whatever information that they put out there is often seen as a matter of opinion. We have to construe it as a matter of opinion rather than a matter of facts. So you can decide to accept or reject based on your own argument.
But in any case, it's not even for the country. I mean, it's for the investors out there.
Yeah, so no investor is also bounded by
exactly.
it.
But what's it for the agency, though?
It's very important because, like I said, it reduces cost of information acquisition.
So what's the need for the agency? What's the need for Moody's or Fitch? They get paid by a
country. They pay them.
The countries pay.
No, not the countries, the investors. Yeah, because you're providing insider information, critical information for them to take a decision.
Okay.
Yes, and reducing your transaction costs.
So it's purely research.
So purely research, independent research. Yes.
Okay.
But there have also been several occasions where their predictions have failed totally. Okay. If you look at 2006-2007 financial crisis, many institutions, the Fitch does not only do for government, they also do for corporations, corporate bonds, municipal bonds, and government bonds, and others. Many countries or institutions or corporations that were rated 3As and others were those that were worst affected by the financial crisis. So immediately they were downgraded to, junk bonds and all that. So it's not always that whatever that you put out is true. That is why we say it's a matter of opinion rather than fact.
So then that's where the issue of what's in it for them. If there have been situations in history, we have a precedent to show that there have been times where they've not been very correct. Is it possible that there's a chance that information is, you know how research can be
Right.
sponsored, and if research is sponsored, there are times where it's skewed to validate a particular hypothesis.
Well, I wouldn't want to toe the line of they being sponsored. These are independent evaluating companies or agencies. They could be wrong. It's data collection. They have data errors, data measurement, and depending on who they are talking to and all that, they could get it wrong. It's possible.
Okay, so then
there's a probability of
them getting it wrong. So then for us as everyday Ghanaians, we should not be concentrating on what Moody's and Fitch says. We should think about what's in our pockets, right?
Well, of course, it's important, but you need to really get the understanding. What is it that they are saying? For example, our current rating that actually led to the improvement. For them, although they use several indicators, but the key indicator for them that they think that we need some kind of upward adjustment was because fiscal deficit has really reduced, from 10.1
Could that be because we're in the
in
IMF
2015,
program?
2014. So that is, but there's a caveat there which says that though this has happened, the fiscal risk remains elevated. The revenue underperforming and government is still spending and borrowing. So it doesn't tell the full story. And of course, the B3 that we are is still down the rock. It's already very low if you look at the ratings. So for me, it's not something that we should really pat ourselves
excited
about. Doc, can you just highlight the reasons why Ghana was upgraded? I know we were at B31 or B31, I don't know how it's said, but we've moved up to B3 or B minus. Can you give us the specifics that they gave as being the indicators for?
Right. Yes. One of it is what they call expenditure controls, and revenue actually improving. Somewhere in the release, I found some inconsistencies there, but that's fine.
Revenue
improving. Yeah, they said that, but at one point in one paragraph, they said the revenue is underperforming, and so I thought that was some kind of inconsistencies there. But the main reason for this improvement in our rating was because of the fiscal deficit that has reduced, and also government passing some key financial management laws,
which is
the bills.
What I was going to come to is the issue of fiscal, the fact that expenditure is being controlled better, not because we're in an IMF program and we're taking steps because we're being constrained by that program.
Exactly. So they made mention of it, the fact that we are following to the letter the IMF conditionalities.
Yes.
So it doesn't really look at the other side of it, the extent to which people are being squeezed to achieve that's what their concern is. Their concern is at the macroeconomic indicators, whether you are meeting them or not, but not really the real side of the economy.
So, Doc, clearly from what you've said so far, what I'm getting is that the Fitch or these credit rating agencies are providing a service for a certain audience, which is the investors on the capital market, international capital market, so that the citizens of a nation really are not the primary target of their work. So the citizens then should be more engaged with what's happening internally for them to make their own decisions or to be informed, really. Because example, you mentioned about the inconsistency in there, which is about revenue collection. They are saying there's been an improvement, but we know from even the supplementary budget that was read, Mr. Tekle himself said we're not doing well. Exactly. So we have that information here, yet we have something else there. So what would you say to that?
Well, I mean, it should be an addendum, to whatever information that you want to look for. But it shouldn't be sufficient for the citizens of the country because, as I mentioned earlier, they are serving their own interests and some interest of their clients and all that. So there are specific information that they are actually looking for, or they actually base their ratings on. And so we can take some, we can leave some. It's just an opinion that they have expressed on the economy. But nevertheless, they provide useful information, and also to a large extent they serve as good, because the ratings, if you are likely to have an improved ratings, its impact on your interest rates.
But that improved rating is dependent on what you do internally. It's not like they are doing you a favor, really.
No, yeah, it depends on what you do, But like I said, sometimes they can mix it, sometimes they can get it right. So it's not every time that they get it right, and it's also not every time that they get it wrong. So for us, we have to look at it and then also match it with what is on the ground, what is really happening, to make our own informed decisions about the economy.
But how does that translate for us as like Ghana in terms of our microeconomic situation currently?
Well,
what's the way forward, if I should say?
Well, the improved ratings, of course, is good for us. Like I mentioned, it reduces our interest costs, in borrowing. But the mere fact that government keeps borrowing and the borrowing levels are already high, for me, we don't have to be happy about it. Not because the ratings say that we have improved, so that we're giving us the license to go out there to borrow when you already have debt sustainability issues. So much as it's good that we have this improvement, for me it does very little to our own macroeconomic management.
And what about for the businessman, the domestic business entrepreneur who is looking at the outlook of the future? Does this provide any information that can be of an indication of what?
Well, not necessarily. It will depend on what government does. If government is able to reduce domestic borrowing, which currently is so high, interest rates hovering around 33%. I mean, one of the highest in West Africa and even Africa today. It's very high. Even government-owned borrowing costs 26% and 24% is still very high. So not until that begins to slump, the private sector domestically is really not going to benefit, regardless of what the agencies are saying, unless government fiscal consolidation translates into reduction in interest rates. That is the only when we can say that the private sector is benefiting from fiscal consolidation. Otherwise, for now, as it stands, there's no benefits. I don't see it.
So thank you very much, Doc, for your time and your insights on the subject. We really appreciate your time here. At this point, we'd like to give you a package from one of our sponsors, Grand Rice Food Company Limited. They are the producers of Leap Tomato Paste. And Leap Tomato Paste is good for all sorts of dishes, jollof rice, stews, anything you can imagine. So grab yourself some tomatoes over the weekend and Leap Tomato Paste for that matter, and whip yourself and your family some nice meal over the weekend, and we are sure you'll enjoy it very much. Leap will leap. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you to Doc. Viewers, we'll take a break. We'll be right back. Stay with us.
Welcome back, viewers. On Big Bang 2, we're going to be having a conversation with the presidential candidate of the Great Consolidated Popular Party, Dr. Henry Lati. Welcome, sir. Thank you very much for joining us.
Thank you. I'm captured.
Yes, you are.
That's the whole idea.
So, how is the campaign going? How is everything picking up? We're 60-something days to election.
Actually, we started quite a long while ago. We just don't get the press, the media, following what we're doing. So we've been working for the last year at least. We started when we did our National Congress, which was in Kumasi. It's a huge Congress. We had 50 VIP trucks throughout all the country. And then we had over 3,000 women and the youth there. It was fantastic. The Electoral Commission could not believe it. They said, Henry, I said, well, you come to our regional, you come to our constituency elections, you know everything is going on well. So why are you surprised that we brought them all over to Kumasi? They were overwhelmed, really overwhelmed. It was fantastic. It was great.
Dr. Lati,
They were overwhelmed.
just not to cut you, but you do say that the media has not been covering your...
No, what we're doing, they were not covering. No. Now we have social media, so I put it on my Facebook. Those who are interested go and they see the hard work that we're doing.
But
do
saying
you
those who are
invite them?
interested, why don't you reach out to everybody so it's not about...
No,
Because they attempt...
the media seem to like NDC and MPP. That's where they like to go. The small party, they call it the small parties, which is totally rubbish in the first place. As a result, they don't find it interesting to come to our, when we're going around. They don't come. Not because they don't want to come, they just don't come. They find it more interesting going to NPP NEC.
Right. So why don't you make it interesting for them then?
Oh, it's interesting. I enjoy it. If they don't find it interesting, it's their problem.
That's the point. You find it interesting, quite subjective. Why not, everybody objective, so everybody is in there?
Can I say something? You see, I love the press, but something has gone amiss in their system. They want to see the supposed big parties, and then they'll follow. I'm happy because it gives you time to cultivate and talk to the people on the quiet and do my campaigning without being proud into what I'm doing. So before they realize, we've captured a lot, and you see it in these elections.
But Dr. Latte, truth be told, having the media on your side does put the information out there and publicize you even more and give you more coverage.
I don't disagree with that.
Right.
But the system, that is how the system has been working. Do I have to go and call graphic that I'm going to a campaign and call all of them?
Yes, but that's what these big shots do.
Listen to me. I'm a thoroughbred. Maybe you don't know it. I've watched my father campaign all these years, and they never gave him that. He called them, and they never showed up. And when they come, they'll come and pick things that are negative and will not help you. So why do you invite people to come and pick negatives? Okay. So you don't.
So there's a blackout on traditional media. You're resorting to social media now.
I've always done. 2012, we were on social media more than any other political party. We had 1 million people on our page.
But did that translate into votes? Because in the 2012 elections,
we
had
beat the
just a little
CPP
over
with the
38,000.
Yes, we beat the CPP with the PNC, and we were fourth. It did something came out of it. But the difference is that now our people are now campaigning. They've been campaigning for quite a while. They're enthusiastic. They're talking to ordinary people. I talk to 20 to 30 people per day myself. Ordinary people. Look, we started the real campaign maybe 2-3 months ago. We went to the Greater Accra and saw Nungwa Manche, and then went to see the Jamestown Manche, and then the Osu Manche. The Jamestown Manche, she told me, son, don't go and rent a crowd. Because that's what you want to hear. They rent a crowd, and then meanwhile the thing is not happening. He said, speak to 1 or 2 or 3 people, and you will be amazed.
But Dr. Latte,
let me finish. He said, you'll be amazed by the results that you get. And I started doing it, and it's working like a dream. Now your question.
So your party is the Great Consolidated Popular Party,
yes.
And I'm trying to settle in my mind why you're moving away from being popular and you want to zoom into smaller groups instead of.
It's not the media that will sell you the votes.
No,
it's ordinary people that will give you the votes.
You mentioned that you advise not to look at the big crowd, but to go and
not rented. He said rented crowd.
Rented crowd.
Rented crowd, because most of these are renting the crowd. They pay for them to go. I'll tell you one example. We went to was it last year? We went to Tech. And we had the youth at Katanga. They were fantastic. And some of our members, by the time we finished, 30,000 cities gone. 30,000 cities. A small group of people. Would you continue to spend 30,000 for every place you go? It's too much, it's too expensive. So don't rent the crowd. Talk to the ordinary people. And I started doing it, and it's working. If you go on to my webpage, I speak to ordinary people, farmers. I speak to laborers. I speak to people who are unemployed. I speak to business people. I speak to all sorts. When you see the market women, I went to the market and I spoke to them, and you ask them what they want, and they tell you.
Very well, Doc. Per the means you are adopting, do you think you have the numbers? You've been able to amass enough numbers to vote for you to put you in power come 2016?
Right now, we'll see when the elections come, because we're working and it's fantastic.
Well.
It's really, really good.
So you're confident of that?
Oh, I'm very confident. Now people know me. Look, sometimes you go to see a person and he doesn't know you. Right. But when you mention your name, oh, is that you? And they're overwhelmed. Then they talk. They're interested.
Speaking about overwhelmed, you sounded overwhelmed with the expenditure of 30,000 on a political activity. And I'm wondering,
for a small one.
Yeah. What's your take on the 50,000 the Electoral Commission is asking as
that one? What I'm saying, you see, that take is that the rate of inflation is only 16.9%, and then you come and increase it by 1,000%, 500%. If you go to the market and your tomato is going up by 500, will you buy? 1,000% would they buy? They
It
wouldn't.
depends on what I want to use the tomatoes
Yeah.
for.
If it's you go to the market and
And
the price
So
has gone
does
up
that
by
mean
1,000.
you won't stand?
Well, I've put in. What do you mean? Well, I can afford it, but the problem is democracy, right? Abraham Lincoln said democracy is government of the people, by the people, and for the people. So if we want to help the ordinary person, and I'm trying to do something for the ordinary person, why should we create a situation where it will be impossible for an ordinary person to become a parliamentarian because the price is too high? I can do it, but should it be the exclusive of those who can afford it?
Could you tell us what your main policy would be? I mean, we hear of free SHS, we hear of one factory per district. What is yours? Because we haven't heard.
Domestication is still the best policy for Ghana
Domestication
and
is still
Africa.
the way.
Is that, you see, we believe in domestication through the Richer Ghana agenda. We are going to give stimulus to farmers, to businesses, to small business as well. Irrespective of business that you do, we have to empower the Ghanaian to be positive. I would say Ghana economic empowerment is very, very important. You find that foreigners come here. I don't hate foreigners because I love foreigners as well. But they come here and they're giving preference, even at the banks.
Yeah.
They may not even have security, but the banks will give them the money. Half of the time, the bankers don't really look at who is the banker here. They don't really study the system properly. For example, in the farming system, the farmer may be hungry. He wants money. You don't give him the money until the rainy season comes. And then you go and give him the money. He will take the money knowing that he cannot produce. He needs to eat. And then you say he failed. If you give the money to the farmer at the right time, when you're supposed to plow, when you're supposed to do all the right things, the farmer will produce, because I am a farmer as well. Despite the fact that my background is finance from the UK, I came in 30 years ago and I started doing farming and exporting. I started farming when I was only 30 years old. My workers were in their 20s. But we gave the money to the farmers when they needed it. Most of them started with 5 acres. Most of them have 1,000 acres now. If you give them money to the farmer at the right time, they are very hardworking. They'll start working by 4 a.m. in the morning. By 8, they're finished. And people say, farmers are lazy. By 8, they come and lie out and sleep. No, they've done their work.
So you're saying when a farmer applies to a bank for a loan, it's for the bank to say that, wait, it's not your time, it's not appropriate.
No, you should go and do a more thorough job. Do a proper fact find. Don't just say, oh, you're a farmer and you can get it wrong, or you have collateral, so I'll give you the money. Look, there are so many good farmers. If you go to any village, they'll tell you who they are. And when I started going into the farming business, I did my research. And the fact find I found was that these guys can work. And when you give them capacity building, and when I say capacity building, you give them all the necessary things that we have another manager in my farm. We give them the money. Is it true that you want a farm? Well, then you go. Who is the landlady? Who is the landlord?
So how many of such have you supported?
So you go and you find out who the landlord is. How much is it? So you pay the fee for the farm. And then you need seeds. You give them the seed, quality seeds. And then you follow them. We keep a record. When you sow, everything that you're doing, we're checking.
That sounds very interesting. But we need to know what so far, how many have you been able to support in your own small way?
We have over 500 farmers when I started.
Across
but when we started doing
country?
through in the Eastern region. When we started doing organic, then we reduced it to 100 farmers. Do you know that we are the largest producers of organic papaya in the whole world? Producers and exporters, we are the largest. Even with the doomsday and all this.
We'll turn to the Media Foundation for West Africa to fact check that, because they're doing some fact checking.
It's all there. It's on Facebook. It's on what do you call it? On the net.
Very well.
We win awards all the time. We are the biggest. We are not just saying that. We are certified by BCS Eco Guarantee, by BioSwiss, and by Kraft. Certified. We supply Tesco, Waitrose, Sainsbury's in the UK, Tegut, Plus in Germany, Ahold in Holland.
We're sorry to have you in there, but we need to be moving on. You've been in the news in recent times for some other issues, particularly the petition to Shraj and EOCO about the Rawlings Abacha issue. What are you seeking to achieve with this?
You see, this Ghana country has to improve. And I think the champion of probity, accountability, and transparency was our former president, Jerry Rawlings. And he came in for those two very reasons. In 1979, he thought Kalabule, that is corruption. And he fought against it. And he was nearly even put in jail because his coup failed. And the ratings came and saved his life. And then the process, 3 out of 6 were killed. General Champon, Afrifa, and Ekofu. And then Ferry had borrowed 50,000. He was also killed. I don't remember what quoted he was also killed. I don't remember the last one. But in the process, because of traceability and accountability, and because people had perceived to be corrupt and destroying the country, and people were starving and hungry, this is what happened.
We know you have a good agenda, but yeah.
So what we want to do is to stop this corruption, and I find it quite difficult after all these years. You go and take 2 million cities. When 18 years ago you said it wasn't there. It didn't happen.
But why
So
Can I explain?
We're running out of time. That's why we want to touch on every issue as
But
much as possible.
the question you ask them, you can't rush like that.
Very
You understand? So you take 2 million cities. After 18 years, you come and say, "Oh, you took it." Before you were chasing Kwaku back when and the culture of science was there, they couldn't do anything. So I'm asking, why did you take the money? Was it because you were supported Abacha when he killed Ken Saro-Wiwa? Ken Saro-Wiwa was a journalist, an environmental journalist of the Ogoni people, and they were taking the oil and messing up his country, and he didn't want that. So they killed a chief, and they said it was him, and he was hanged. Our former president backed this Abacha. So I'm asking, is it because you backed it? You know, the Commonwealth, they banned Nigeria 3 years, and yet you backed him. Would they come and give you 2, or would they give you 5, or is it 100? We want to know.
But Doc, please, so assuming Shraj takes on the case and has adverse findings about the president, then what?
Then we know that he's not a junior Jesus. We know that he's a junior
Do
Satan.
you need to go through
No,
that
then we know that
process
he's a
to-
junior Satan. And if he's a junior Satan, Ghanaian would treat him as a junior Satan, not a
because
junior
he
Satan.
is no longer a public officer. At the time, yes, he was a public officer, and so Shraj could have...
Should we allow corruption to go on?
No, but the point is...
So
So you
It's
just
very
want to test the
appropriate-
precedents to stop corruption
Sorry?
even after so many years. Is that your aim?
My aim is that people should know that even if you're a president, and it will give you immunity for a period of time, the long arm of the law can get
We'll
you.
still get you very well.
Absolutely.
But people
Why not
will be
perhaps
thinking that it's
resort to the
affecting...
court,
Yeah.
the court processes?
No,
Because with Shraj-
I'm asking questions. I don't know.
Right.
I don't. It's an
You don't
allegation. I don't want to know. We want to. So Shraj, please find out.
Right.
Economic crime unit. Find out.
Right.
But the man has come out to say it himself, which is so...
Not one way. Let's find out. Let be clean. We have these institutions to work.
Now,
Let
you've
it
heard it
work.
from the horse's own mouth. You need to hear it from somebody
I'll
else.
tell you something. I was in Nigeria doing business. Someone said, "I want to hear from the horses." He said, "You call my boss a horse?"
But people, the question on people's minds is, in this critical time of election,
It's
why
important.
spend
It's very
time
important.
into,
I'm doing
venting-
both. It's important. If I want to rule this country, I'll have to make sure that nobody is going to be. Well, you can't wipe corruption out, but you can cut it down.
So you're
And
sure it's not taking your attention off?
Of course
amassing
not.
the
I'm enjoying.
Or
I'm doing
maybe
both.
it's actually
helping.
getting attention. Is that another way?
No. Look, if somebody is corrupt, it's corrupt.
Okay.
If he's being perceived as being corrupt and he's not, should we
But you
allow?
could have done
should
this
we-
earlier. I mean,
Look, there was a culture of silence at one point. You couldn't. There's a culture of silence. Do you know what we want? They say they even have.
but democracy has been in this country for a while now.
What democracy? Do you know how we got there? Do you know how we got into democracy? Movement for freedom and justice. They were the people who brought democracy, and my father was one of them.
Dr.
And
Latte.
as a result, we do. Those of us in the GCPP want to make sure that we want Ghana clean, so that when we win the elections, people know that we are fighting against corruption. He's being perceived as being corrupt. Maybe he's not. So let's find out.
But Doc, again, I go back to the fact that Mr. Rawlings himself said this.
One person.
Back in his time when the issue came up,
Well-
they went to Parliament, and then that motion was dismissed. Just as recently we had this motion
Let's go
dismissed as
find
well.
out. Let's go
And
find
the
out.
man himself came out recently to say that indeed he took 2 million and not 5 million.
But
What
he-
fact checking
why,
do we need again?
why did he say 18 years ago that it wasn't true? He didn't take any money.
No, but he has now said it. So why don't
But he
you,
did not
if you
take- he
really
did not
want to
take the
deal
money,
with
we won't
corruption,
find out.
why don't you file a case in court and then pursue
No,
it?
no,
but
no,
those
no.
who strive
We have
for another
institutions.
fact-finding
We have
mission,
institutions.
when you have the facts already there by the man,
Madam, we have institutions.
yes, and court
But
is
the-
also an institution.
No, we have institutions. We have Shraj that to make sure that human rights not being messed up, and then you have to kill against economic crime. So we put it there. That is what they are supposed to do.
Very well.
That's what you are supposed to do. I believe that he's an honest person, but if the,
Even after, anyways, well.
I believe that he's an honest person. Let's find out whether he's honest. If he's not honest, he'll be a junior Jesus. If he's a good, if he's an honest person, he'll be a junior. If he's not, he'll be a junior Satan. Then Ghanaians can make up their minds. It's as simple as that. I find, Madam Ohene was saying the same thing when she became editor graphic. Nobody was saying anything. GBA kept quiet. The politicians kept quiet. And she was saying, why are these people quiet when they are killing this head of states? The same things are happening now. You're asking me the same question. What, I should keep quiet? No, I won't keep quiet.
Not to keep quiet. I'm just asking for a most effective approach to dealing with the situation, because Shraj is going
You don't
to...
believe in Shraj?
No, I do believe, but that their remedying actions would not be effective now because he's no longer a public officer. Because ideally, they would recommend to his supervisor to perhaps take him off from the position, or perhaps even recommend an impeachment. But he's no longer the president.
So she
so
can't
why don't you
if
just
it's
go
wrong.
to court,
No,
bring
no.
him under a charge for
Maybe he will
corruption
take-
by
maybe he
public
will take
officer or
me to court.
something?
Maybe he will take me to court.
But then that's the thing, though. Wouldn't this take away from your campaign?
It will not take it
Isn't
away.
this
You'll see.
extra
Look,
time
we're
you should be
working.
doing on trying to
We're
get
working for
votes.
Ghana, and this is for you people. I'm doing all this for everybody, so that corruption will
Very
be rooted
well.
out from the top. It will
Very
trickle
well.
down when it's done.
Thank you very much, Dr. Henry Latte. We've really enjoyed your time with us here, and we wish you well with your campaigns.
Thank you. I enjoy being captured.
But we have a gift from one of our sponsors, that's Grand Rice Food Company Limited. They are the producers of Leap Tomato Paste and Leap
Who are
Tomato
they?
Paste. Grand Rice,
Grand Rice.
Food Company Limited.
Okay,
So we
Grand
have
Rice.
this package for you.
They produce rice as well.
Leap Tomato Paste, and it's good for so many dishes, jollof, stews, and also
Tomatoes made in Ghana, domesticated tomatoes.
So you have to go
Is it
and
domestication?
register
tomatoes.
that.
Is it
So we wish
domestication?
you well.
If it's domestication, I'll be very happy.
in your campaigns, and we'll be looking out for huge numbers this time round.
Ghanaians will decide. You know.
Very well. So viewers, that is our show for today. We've been looking at a number of things. We've been looking at the fact-checking being done by the Media Foundation for West Africa. We've also looked at the ratings, credit ratings done by Fitch, Moody's, and the other credit rating agencies. We also looked at the IGP's directives for suspension on motor checks by the MTTD and the highway patrols. And of course, we had an interesting time with Dr. Henry Latte, the flag bearer of the Great Consolidated Popular Party.
Captured.
So that's it for today. We'll see you same time next week. Until then, my name is Abna Tebi, and I've done this with Petra and Nanama. And thanks to our sponsors as well. We'll see you next week. Bye-bye.